Today is today is October 5th, 2024. There's a movie called The Right Stuff. I've seen it, but I forgot what the thing is about. But it's a collection of astronauts, and they have the right stuff. So now that I have been trading for a little bit and uh, have um, lost so many challenges, I'm thinking to myself on a specific case by case basis. The idea for me still is to still pass the to actually get payout on the 5K. And initially, the the trades are trades are essentially getting better. It seems to me because what I'm seeing is that I'm spending less on recycling the challenges right now. So what I've noticed is that there are a couple of setups that I'm using on a consistent basis. What I'm looking for is two types, primarily just two types, not sophisticated types, but just a couple types. The first one is the first higher high, and the second one is uh, parabolic move. Those are the two bread and butter trades that I've been using. And as long as I'm uh, as long as I'm careful with those, right? As long as I'm uh, as long as I am uh, as long as I have 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 uh, as long as I have what a journey it has been. It has been a very interesting journey, and I've gained some familiarity in my trading. And and now that I see a correlation, that's why it's I suppose that's why it's called the back testing. Back testing is so critical to gain familiarity of the market in a specific instance of a channel that I use to enter the market. And when I start to see that correlation and consistency in the methods that I'm using, then I can transfer that knowledge onto another means of trading. But initially, it has to start with a consistency in a specific manner. When I gain that specific instance of familiarity with that particular setup, just like what I talked about, the the greatest return that I've seen so far and has been the greatest loss has been the first higher high. And what I tend to do is not wait for that higher high, and especially when a there is a broad downtrend, there is a possibility or the inf- uh, influence or essentially a hint of the fact that it is reversing. And then when it's reversing, it is attempting to get into the first higher high. And in many cases, what I would do is not wait for that particular candle to close. When that candle is closed at a higher high, there is essentially the market is saying, Okay, it dipped. It had is essentially it has essentially it has essentially vetted out it is downtrending catalyst, and now it's returning back. And depending on whether the market is broadly in the way that it created the trough, or it is essentially a spike, and whether there is a momentum of a large candle that's driving it upwards, then that defines how the length of that reestablished trend will continue, or it'll subside. And so far, I'm making progress. What I've been thinking about now is, okay, now that I'm essentially making this a a career goal, and I've informed God that I need to be selfish in my time to make this thing work. So now what I need to do, and I've been thinking about this today. I've been thinking about, okay, so how do I, uh, how do I, how do I make sure, how do I make sure that in the future, I'm thinking like $1 million. I'm thinking in terms of $1 million right now. Of course, the immediate goal is to actually go positive, make some money initially. But I need to be thinking about initially what I need to think about is, okay, how do I consistently make money? Just a little bit. And then how do I use that as a springboard to make a little more money, like maybe $1,000 a month. At this point, the money is going flowing out. It's flowing out. And so what I need to do is uh, make sure that I'm actually on a monthly basis, money's flowing in. And that when that money starts flowing in, then I can take that what I have established and then increase it a little bit or become more sophisticated or add other setups to it in order to accentuate that little bit of gain to one day making $1,000 a day, $1,000 a month. $1,000 a day would be great, but initially it's the $1,000 a month. Of course, what I would do is take 50% of that and just write a check to the IRS and send it out immediately. Apparently, when I'm in business for myself, as far as the 1099 is concerned, so far, my unsophisticated research has shown me that what I need to do is on a quarterly basis, I have otherwise there would be like penalties and interest on the money that I owe to the IRS once I start making money. But right now, I'm not. And then I can have a CPA look at it later on down the road. So the intent is to make about $1,000 a month. Right now, I'm essentially has been on a verge of turning profit. I guess that's how new business ventures occur. Initially, there's a significant loss, and then one day the return it becomes positive. Once that return becomes positive, then then I can do more of what works and then keep doing it and keep doing it and make it bigger and bigger to ultimately which at a point where I would when I reach a point of a $100,000 profit from the market, then I can write a book. And then once I reach $1 million, then I can write the second book, and then so on. So ultimately, what I hope to do is ultimately to make $1 billion in 1 year. $1 billion in 1 year. That is the goal that I have. $1 billion per year. That's the goal. And so right now, the I suppose it's like a rocket ship. Okay. the rocket ship that is essentially requires, apparently on Earth, because of gravity, what happens is that the rocket has to carry its own fuel, and that fuel weighs heavy on the rocket. And therefore, most of the propellant is used to propel its own propellant above. And then when the propellant is drained down, then it starts to make, with the same amount of force that is generated at the burn rate, then it's going to accelerate the rocket into space. And so there is a point where there is a greater, see, if the rocket is practically empty, that is when it has the highest thrust to weight ratio, because the rocket is light as it is, but the thrust remains the same. But the thrust at the ground level is at its max, but it also is at the maximum weight, and therefore the efficacy of that thrust becomes stronger and stronger and stronger as it gets to the point where the rocket fuel depletes. So initially, just like day trading, it is essentially the way that the market works. And the way that I've seen it is that what I need to do is gain momentum in my learning about my trades, and then essentially developing a back testing. Essentially, that's what back testing is. I've tested myself for the past 4 years on defining what the strategy is, and then defining a specific statistical probability of the setups that I've been using up to this time, with the element of human factor in it. And once I achieve success in that human factor and extinguishing it within a tamed manner, then I can really focus on the strategy that I have and employing that strategy by practicing and developing a routine of consistency to develop a consistent return. And so what happens now is that now that I'm in the throes of igniting this rocket, and that's going to launch me above, and the idea is to reach the moon. A few days ago, when I was bussing tables, this old man, uh, and it looks like it was her daughter or something, and his wife was sitting there, and he looked at me and says, "Hey, how old are you?" And I told him, "I'm." Oh, he asked me, "What year were you born in?" And I told him, "Well, I was born in the year 1969." And he asked again another question. He says, "On the same day?" I said, "Oh, I wasn't that lucky." And then his follow-up was, "Well, it's close enough, right?" And so every which way, it's close enough, but um, it is essentially, I am, I have been essentially at that launching point for that liftoff. Okay, that's where it is. And so far, within the past few days of development and trading uh, the challenges, currently I have two 5Ks and two 10Ks with two different prop firms, and I'm making progress on it. But on any day, that rocket ship could just ignite and bring me back right down to earth. But so far, I'm making some progress with the strategy that I'm using, and with the newfound knowledge of statistics, psychology. I'm looking at my watch right now. It's 3:32 p.m. I gotta start washing dishes in about 28 minutes. So it'll take me about 20 minutes to get there. So essentially, that's where I am, about to lift off. And once that liftoff occurs, all I have to do is do the same thing, but at a higher intensity. Once that once that ignition occurs and that launch occurs and every thruster's in full effect, full impact, then zoom I go. So Zoom is something that I will use with a trading buddy of mine. And we're gonna have a Zoom call once I become a fully consistent and profitable day trader, and then we'll launch off and make this thing really work. So today I was sitting in my cube and I'm thinking to myself, I'm looking at these trades and the trade size at the at and all the money and all the money that's available for funded prop firms. And I'm thinking in most cases it is $200,000 is a max. And so even if I make, which is very difficult to do, even if I make 2% on that, that's about $4,000. $4,000 a day. And if I'm still consistent on each day, $4,000 times 20 days out of the month, which is essentially the effective trading days, plus or minus, actually minus the holidays, which means that 20 times $4,000, that's about, what is that? That's about $80,000 a month, essentially, right? That's essentially making 2% per day on a consistent basis, which is essentially very, very difficult to do. Uh, I mean, we're talking about uh, highly educated people who are fund managers who are making what, 10% a year? Not even. Sometimes it's less, right? And loss, they could incur losses, but making essentially 2% per day, uh, I mean, that's incredible. 2%, two times 20, that's 80%. Almost 100%, making almost 100% each month, which is anyway. So so I'm in the throes of creating myself into equipping myself to have the right stuff. It's about a rocket ship or something like that. And then these astronauts are going to space to do something, but they have to have the right stuff. And that's what day trading is. I have to have the right stuff. Anyway, that's the that's an update to what's going on right now. Anyway, gotta go to work.